I think the president's move to do a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz is correct. The Iranians basically had full control, and they were only allowing through a handful of ships that were to their benefit, i.e. stuff for the Chinese. If they're going to use the Strait as an economic terror weapon against the entire world, then we're just going to cut that off. The Iranians said that their nuclear material is not up for debate. They're crazy. That is a crazy, crazy regime.
I wanted to ask you about the actions of President Trump in the United States Navy with Iranian ports,
with the blockade.
I wanted to get your reaction on that.
I think the president's move to do a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz is correct. Because what is happening right now is that the Iranians basically had full control, and they were only allowing through a handful of ships that were to their benefit, i.e. stuff for the Chinese. And so if they're going to use the Strait as an economic terror weapon against the entire world, then we're just going to cut that off. And then hopefully we can go back to the negotiation table to get something done. So I think the president is doing the right thing. And let me also state this for the record. I know we have many people, including in Florida, who are concerned about a never-ending war in the Middle East again. Knowing President Trump, knowing Secretary Rubio, that is not the goals and the aims that they have. This is very different from the Bush administration and that whole team there, a very different team. So I think what you're going to see, they're going to do the blockade. Hopefully that the ceasefire holds around the blockade, and we'll see what goes back to the negotiating table. I will also add, what came out of the negotiations, as I understand it, is that the Iranians said that their nuclear material is not up for debate. Yeah. I mean, look, the Iranians, by the way, this is important people understand. When Obama did the JCPOA, he gave the Iranians $150 billion with a pretty please promise not to enrich nuclear material. Not only did they take the $150 billion, but they lied to the entire world about the enrichment. So they've enriched well past 3 to 5%, which is what you need for energy production. Some is in the 20s, some is in the 50s. It is now enriched towards nuclear grade uranium material. They're crazy. That is a crazy, crazy regime. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And I agree with the president. I got time for two more, and then we'll wrap. Yeah.
Immigration is still one of the biggest issues in Florida and around the country.
Yeah.
You've been accused of wanting a pathway to citizenship for illegal aliens. How do you respond to that, and what exactly is your position on that? Do you support deporting all illegals?
My response is, I've never supported a pathway to citizenship. I know the video that people are referring to. I did an interview with CPAC back in 2021. This is before Joe Biden let in more than 10 million illegal aliens into the United States. And the question was about how do we actually bring immigration into common sense reality today? And I said, you have to start with border security. You have to start with security first, secure the border, get that done. The second thing you have to do is go through reforms of the visa system. H-1B visas, they got to go. They've been abusing American workers. There's so many reforms in the visa process that are needed because this stuff was written in the 80s, not today. And so it all has to be reformed. The third thing was following the 9/11 Commission's review and saying that we have to have a biometric exit system. We have a biometric entry system in the United States. We still don't have a biometric exit system. That has to be done. Then I said, we have to make sure we end chain migration. We should go back to a quota system in immigration because the United States has to be able to assimilate people coming into the country. If you have workers who are using visas to come in, we got to be able to take stock of that, assimilate them into our way of life. The sixth thing I said was we need to end birthright citizenship. This is actually before the court right now. Birthright citizenship, in my view, is a bastardization of the 14th Amendment because that was for black slaves. The 14th Amendment was written for the children of black slaves in order to give them citizenship in a country that had denied them and treated them, obviously, they were slaves, as slave labor. That's the purpose of the 14th, and all of the debates leading up to the 14th Amendment support that position. What the United States has done in practice, not by law, not by constitution, is that if you're just born in the United States, you've been granted citizenship. But let me explain what this means to people. The Chinese government has over 500 birth tourism companies where they have Chinese foreign nationals who basically come over on a tourist visa, give birth in the United States. The baby is now a US citizen under the way it's looked at, and then they go back to China. And then that child who has citizenship has the ability to come into the United States at any given point in time. The parents don't have allegiance to the United States. The parents are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, but the children are now somehow citizens. That's crazy. And that's what current interpretation does. So these are all the things I talked about in this video. And then at the end of it, I said, and then once all that is done, the American people are good people. You would probably have a debate on what to do with everybody who's still here. But that's the end, not the beginning. The Democrats, what they want is to do a pathway to citizenship up front. I will never support that, ever. That's amnesty, and it's wrong. And by the way, that's what happened in 1986 when they did the immigration deal that Ronald Reagan did amnesty for 3 million illegals at the time. And the promise was they do border security and immigration enforcement. And the wall never got built. So we've tried this before. So my position is get all the stuff done. Then you can talk about who's still here. 100% I support deporting illegals. I supported Donald Trump. I support it today. What Governor DeSantis is doing today with members of law enforcement all being under the 287G program, I support that as well. And we're going to continue that because what has now happened for 5 years after that interview that I did back in 2021, what has now happened is the Biden administration was flagrant in border security and internal enforcement. And now we have Democrats who are stonewalling funding border agents, customs agents, and immigration agents. The Democrats defunded policy that would actually allow for ICE to investigate child sex trafficking rings. That's funded under ICE, and they have stopped that funding. That is insane to me. So I just think that these are the things that we have to be focused on. But to your point, look, Javi, I get it. It's campaigns. A lot of guys are losing. They're losing big, I'm just telling you. A lot of guys are losing, and so they're trying to go back and find my words from some interview and splice splice everything together in some 30-second soundbite to make it seem like I support amnesty. I have a 100% rating from Numbers USA for my 6 years in Congress. It's just a flat-out lie because we have people who are losing in their campaign efforts. And so what are they going to do? Well, I know what they're going to do. In a couple of months, they're going to lose and everybody will forget about it. All right. Well, hold on.
He spliced his video and made his words seem different.
My words get spliced all the time, you know.
Right.
They act like Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes. That's what they like to do. All right, sir. You're right there. Last question.
Question is, if you do an opinion of Governor DeSantis and Governor Scott with what they've done in the past, like with the animal policy in your county, they spent $2 million to make the animals be able to go underneath alligator out. And for 12 crossings, 167,000 per crossing. Compare that to California that spent $100 million to try to get one crossing on that hasn't been done yet. Mm-hmm. And then taking the same theory with the Bright Line, where Florida spent $2 billion to do 171 miles of the rail system versus California that has spent over $35 billion. And they have to do the first leg of 171 miles. I mean, keeping that, we're keeping our taxes, no income tax here. We don't want that, what's going on in California. I know you'll keep DeSantis' team and Governor Scott's team on keeping, managing our tax dollars.
Yes. So for people who are trying to make sure they understood it, he was doing a comparison of the animal crossings that we built in Everglades Restoration when we raised Tamiami Trail to what California did with that one bridge that they still haven't finished and spent twice the money. And also the fact that, with their rail system, they spent way more money, can't build anything. Let me just be very clear. The reason why California is a terrible, terrible state is because they don't use common sense, and they have people that have never been in business and don't know how to just execute a mission. I spent 17 years in the finance world before politics. 17 years. That was my business. And in that world, if you don't know how to get something done, you're going to be fired. You ain't going to last long. So my commitment is that our state is going to be very efficient with the resources that the people of Florida have given us. The same way it was under Governor DeSantis, the same way it was under Governor Scott. The people of Florida demand no less and expect no less. Your government is going to be responsible and ruthlessly efficient with the dollars that you trust us with. Thank you, everybody.